Hello and welcome back to this AWS course. So we're currently in section 4 and this is lesson 5 where we're going to look at debugging an AWS Lambda service. Now obviously an AWS Lambda runs on AWS's infrastructure and it's not feasible for us, it's completely impossible for us to debug on their hardware. So what we do is we run our Express server that runs within the Lambda. We run the Express server on a local machine and we're just going to run a local UI under Vite that'll connect to it. So if you'd like to follow along and you want to get this source code, just go to richardbraycourses.co.uk and you'll find there's a repo for every section. So just scroll down here to section 4, click on the repo button, and you'll find there's a folder for every single lesson. So we've just completed lesson 4. So if you just go here, you'll be able to pick up the source code where we're starting off. So with that, let's go to Visual Studio Code. And the first thing I'm going to do is just recap on how to get the API server and local UI up and running. So we'll bring up a terminal window, split it into two, and if we look at package.json, we're going to use this UI dev to get the UI up and running. Let's do that on the right. And we're going to use this API dev to get the API server up and running. So let's say prun. Incidentally, this is an alias, so prun is pnpm minus silent run. So prun API dev, and we can see that this is up and running on port 3001. Now, at the moment, as we saw in the last lesson, this UI is not connecting to this local API server, and we can show that if we run the UI. Let's put the terminal away for the moment. You can see service is okay, so it is connecting to an API server, but it's actually connecting to the one running in AWS. So to see that, if we go to Source, Services, API Server, and set a breakpoint here, and just rerun the UI and hover over API Base, we can see that it's currently connected to the API server running in the cloud. So I'll just remove this breakpoint temporarily so we don't get stuck many times. And to fix that, as we saw in the last lesson, we just need to rename this file from rename me to .env.local. And then .env.local takes priority over .env. So if I just show them both side by side, instead of Vite API base being the cloud version, it's going to use Vite API base as the local version. So now if I go back and set this breakpoint again and reload the page, hover over API base, we can see it's connecting to 3001. And services OK is up, so the connection's working fine. So that's debugging the UI side of things. Now this lesson is how to debug the server. So we'll put all that away. And for now, I'll just close this and bring the terminal back. Now, in order to debug the API server, we are actually provided with a very useful thing called the JavaScript debug terminal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to close both of these terminals down. And then if you go View, Command Palette, and select debug :JavaScript, you'll find debug JavaScript debug terminal appears. And this is a terminal provided by Microsoft in VS Code for exactly what we need. So if I split it in two, we'll see that the left-hand one is the JavaScript debug terminal and the right-hand one is the regular bash terminal. So now all I need to do is just run the API server in here and run the UI in here. And our API server is now running in a debugger, and we can see the usual VS Code debug toolbar up here. So let's go and put a breakpoint in the API server. We put it here, and then we'll fire up the UI. And as soon as it starts up, the UI is going to check the health of the API server, and we should see this breakpoint hit. So let's go and do that. Bam, there it is. And we'll see in the document server it's saying service is checking because it's waiting for this to return. And now we can look there at local variables available in this function, which request and response are over here. We can also set up watch points. I did this a little bit earlier, and we can inspect the values inside them. We can see the URL of this request is /health, and so on. And when we're done, we can hover over values as well. When we're done, we can just say continue. And now if I go back to the document, we'll say services okay. So in a nutshell, that's it. We don't really have to create any of those old VS Code profiles. It really is this simple, and we'll be using this way as much as possible in the course. So with that, I will bring this lesson to a close, and I'll see you in the next.